against same-sex marriage, now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies, now you say they're too harsh. You supported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly last week, you're against it. Will you say anything to get elected?
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life. I have always...
Our mailman's going a little fast. Doing a little over. Actually, that's a male girl, I think. A little bit faster than 25, I think. For the mailman, that's a little bit fast. I mean, 25 is a little bit faster than the mailman. They're supposed to take it easy. But I talked to one the other day, and she said that she's got to hurry, rush to get her stuff delivered. I'm like, man, can't they figure out a way where you can just deliver it and not have to rush? Because I'm against hard work. I believe in work. I believe in getting things done. I believe in being able to get things done without destroying people's lives. I mean, probably 30 hours a week is probably the max. People should work 40 hours a week, and you don't get to do anything, at least during the week, you know, Monday through Friday. And you need, like, I would say it would be better if everybody had an hour for lunch and a half hour in the afternoon and half hour in the morning. So you could have, like, people get to work at like 9, work for 3 hours, and then take for lunch, and then say work for 3 hours, and at 4 take a break. I don't know, but I don't think that you have to. It would be nice, maybe two lunch hours or something. Or maybe flex time, an hour for lunch and flex time, so that you could take off and go do something during the day. Because when you're at work, it's the ideal time to stop and get things done, because you're out of the house and you're in another part of town and you're traveling from one part of town. But what they like to do is they like to put what is essentially work time on top of you, on your hours. I mean, first of all, if you wake up in the morning and all you do is get ready to go to work and drive to work, well, shouldn't all that time that you spend in pursuit of your job, even though it's just getting ready and stuff, shouldn't that all be time you're spending basically at work? So, I mean, you should get paid right there for getting ready to go to work and then going to work. Because, you know, getting ready, just getting up in the morning and going to work are two different things. If you have to go to work, you know, sometimes you have to get especially clean and smell good and put on a suit and tie and all that kind of crap. Now, that's time that you wouldn't be wasting. So I think that, you know, I think we need to rethink work. You know, people are good enough that they will get up and work as part of a community instead of just for themselves. I mean, that's the way capitalism works. Everybody for themselves kind of deal, and it's rude, and it's obnoxious, and it's unpleasant, and it makes people unhappy. No, I'm not saying that sometimes you don't have a nice enough life that you could say you're happy when for some people, especially people who get paid very well, especially rich people who get paid very well and don't really work all that hard, and they get jobs that are very pleasant, just bossing other people around. Usually they're pretty much unnecessary, other than that they think they're keeping things in line. But the fact is capitalism is what fucks everything up so bad that you would even need a person to tell somebody they're doing their job or they're not. I mean, you'd always have to have supervisors and managers and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that, but they wouldn't have to be assholes. And they do have to be assholes under a capitalist system. So I'm not saying there aren't times when you wouldn't. I mean, obviously, if somebody's not doing their job and But at that point, they don't have an excuse, right? Because everything's cool. Everything's set up so that they really don't have any excuses not to do their job. They're getting paid. They're getting their slice of the pie. There's a lot of flexibility. Getting time to go do stuff, and there's time for them to enjoy life. All that. After that, if you don't want to do your job, then you're just a prick, right? So it flips it. It flips it from capitalism, where the rich and their managers are being dicks, like almost all the time, right? I've never known a manager who wasn't being a dick, especially to the bottom of the barrel, the people doing the grunt work and stuff. How many times have I heard somebody talking on a phone with an employee saying, well, if you don't like it, you can come in here and I'll write you out your pink slip, or whatever, the thing where you fire somebody, threatening to fire people, like Trump always, you're fired, you're fired. He thinks he's funny. He thinks he's funny because he had a show that was like the worst show in history, It was just a big pile of shit. All reality TV shows are just that. And a guy like him with as much money as he had, I mean, if I had that kind of money, I would never, ever sell out to reality TV. I mean, half the people on there are volunteers. They're not even paid. And they're run on just the cheapest model, the cheapest way of producing a show. Because the networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, which was all that there really was, and then there was UHF at some point with Fox and some other networks like that, UBN, they had it all tied down so that people would pay massive amounts of money to have commercials on their show, on their network, so they could afford to buy TV shows like just all of the shows that popped up during the 70s. And they weren't that great, but they were expensive to make back then. And then at some point, people started getting VCRs, and they started skipping through the commercials, and people started realizing they weren't doing what they were paying for in advertising. So they would pay a lot for advertising because they figured TV advertising was the best, and it probably is overall. But it was becoming less and less the best. And so they stopped running ads. So the TV networks instead had to figure out, and they'd already come up with reruns, right? But even reruns they weren't pulling in the big bucks. Their idea of money is selling advertising during the Super Bowl, which now is becoming weak as well. People are stopping to watch. And I know that my push for 50 years, no, not 50, because I was about 25 or 30 when I realized how bad sports ruined me. I mean, my knees and my hip and my back especially, I nearly broke my back. Snap has caused me to be like paralyzed and stuff, but now it hurts so bad. If I sit on any long time like I'm doing now, when I get up, my back. What are you guys so upset for? Oh, you just want attention. These are our ducks. They're wonderful. They're great. Great bunch of ducks. Uh-oh. Something's going on. Somebody made somebody mad. Oh, come on. What's the big deal? So you like the same girl. That's no big deal. Anyway, so taking care of the ducks. So they had to come up with something even cheaper than reruns, and so So they come up with the idea of reality TV, right? Well, this is like just like taking a shit and putting it on TV. Matter of fact, I think a shit, maybe video of animals and people taking shit would probably do better than Donald Trump's, whatever the name of it was. And I'm not even going to refer to him as Trump anymore. He's just rump. He's just an ass. And given to us by her Lord and Lady Hillary and Bill Clinton. Chillery. So they came up with that, reality TV, and they somehow could get advertisers to pay for the like real cheap ads that they would run on these shows. I mean, compared to like if you had won, and this is dollar compared like to with inflation and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, compared to like paying to have your ad run during Bewitched or something like that. Of course, now I see a lot of good shows on TV, and I'm not quite sure how that works. I mean, The Blacklist, you know, there's always been The Simpsons and Futurama and Family Guy, and those are always really good shows to advertise on. There's a lot of people watching. So you get the idea? Capitalism doesn't work. I mean, I could get into the millions of ways that capitalism doesn't work, and I do. You hear about it, and I have my site, Why Capitalism Sucks. And I quite often will make segments for this show off of them. But that's another aspect of why capitalism sucks. It just doesn't work, you know. It screws everything up, even television. You know, which, my God, what a loving thing. Huh? America is in love with, well, video. In a lot of ways, to get past that problem was to go straight to video. No commercials. People just pay for a videotape, or now I guess a DVD, and that's the end of it. There's no, and there might be advertising in it, I don't know. People who sell the videos could sell advertising. And eventually a lot of that stuff straight to video ends up on, you know, like if you're anime, you end up a lot on selling it to Adult Swim on the Cartoon Channel and shit like that. Good stuff. I mean, I love Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed, and it's just a slew of these animes. And I love Rick and Morty. I'm hooked on Rick and Morty, man. I'm watching it over and over and over again because there's only 3. So I'll just leave it on and catch bits and pieces. I've already watched them all. I think there's another one coming up soon. I don't have like all this crap, Netflix and all that stuff, so I have to pick it up where I can, you know. I don't have the money for that stuff. I don't have the money for cable. I watch broadcast television, if I ever watch TV, and I rarely do unless the internet's out. Because I can watch just about anything on the internet. You just have to kind of poke around on the different places that they have, and you can watch. I mean, not when it comes out, but as time goes by, there's all kinds of crap on YouTube. I mean, all kinds of TV, old cartoons, tons and tons of them, and they're kind of fun to watch. And who cares anyway, right? I mean, it's not like it's the most important part of my day, but I do like something going in the background. I think most people do. They like to have the TV on in the background while they work and all kinds of stuff. And I don't think that's harmful. Everybody used to be like, turn the TV off while you're working. Well, what the fuck? What do you care how I get my work done? I want to have the TV going and the news or something going in the background. Well, what do you care? But you know, these capitalist bosses, they got to control every aspect of your life. Anyway, that's my segment about advertising dollars in TV. I am done with that now.
March 7, 2016 / at Salem State University. Why reality television sucks. Don't even waste your time. Angela Leiden. 5 reasons why reality shows ruin TV. One of my biggest pet peeves, besides people who consume food too loudly and lick their fingers before handing me cash, is reality television. Although it's entertaining for this generation, this guilty pleasure is taking up too many channels. I almost feel embarrassed stopping on these shows while flipping through the channels. After watching an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians out of sheer curiosity, I felt my face muscles turn into a consistent frown and was irritated by the fact this show even gets ratings. They are the farthest thing from reality. Since when did materialistic lifestyles and plastic surgery become reality? These shows could not be further from life in the actual world. I don't know about anyone else, but I know I couldn't spend all day in a hot tub, and then dropping $500 on a designer purse. Some of us have responsibilities and bills to pay. If you want an actual reality show, document yourself walking around for the day with your smartphone. Totally fake and scripted. Nothing says reality more than a predetermined plot and script, right? You may as well invest your time in an elaborate and creative plot of a fictional series. It takes no brain activity to watch Kim Kardashian pick out which ridiculously expensive outfit to wear to her next photo shoot. 3. Totally uneducational. Personally, fictional shows which contain an intricate plot and a laundry list of talented actors would be ideal. Even a scientific documentary on how this planet formed would catch my attention. I feel as though my IQ drops every time I see someone trying to find their soulmate, 5 minutes after meeting the contestants. I haven't seen anything so fake since the 2016 presidential candidates took the podium. 4. Unmotivating and pointless. There's no value watching these shows, and even the entertainment aspect begins to wear off. I'm almost insulting talented actors by not supporting their shows and changing the channel. If some of these celebrities weren't famous, we wouldn't even give them a second thought. My time feels wasted when I invest even 10 minutes into these shows. 5. Discourages its viewers. Don't waste your time feeling despair over comparing your income to talentless actors who make money off of its viewers. The unrealistic nature of reality television is the fact that the real, average person doesn't compare. This discredits the show in itself, making it unrelatable to pretty much its entire population of viewers. It's downright depressing watching people who are famous for no reason, spending insane amounts of money on anything they desire, while its viewers are putting in the hours and making minimum wage. But don't be too down on yourself. At least your everyday routine doesn't require a script and camera crew.
That's a frightening idea, huh? That guys like this recent guy who shot up the concert in Nevada will try to acquire nuclear weapons, huh? I mean, rich people. That's what Osama bin Laden was all about, right? It wasn't that he was that great of a terrorist or anything, but he had money and he used it to so you got this latest shooter being ultra wealthy, apparently. I don't know how rich he was, but let me make an important point here, and that is you need to pay attention to how I'm going to cover this shooter, because I'm never going to mention his name, because in my opinion that's what needs to be done to make sure that he never gets into the history books. I mean, we'll talk about what he did and what he was all about, but we won't talk about his name. Never mention his name. If his name got in the very beginning, I'll cut it out and you won't see it in my coverage. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that he was going for just exactly that. He wanted his name to be immortalized in history, you know, like Lee Harvey Oswald and names like that. What he said was that it comes from a time when the country was more united. The country hasn't been more united than it is now. Okay, there's always been lots of people who've been, and the only reason that it might have appeared to be less divided back then is because we had no internet. I mean, that's really what it gets down to, right? So nobody was, I mean, everybody knew. I was there, you know. I was alive when Kennedy was assassinated. I wasn't particularly aware of it. I was aware of it because I was only 3 years old. Or maybe even like just about 3 years old, I think, because I was born in December 1960. So 61, 62, 63, yeah, just going on 3. But I do remember Robert F. Kennedy's assassination. And I can remember walking down my street, you know, obviously I'm like a 6-year-old child, and being sad. And I can even remember the sticky little round, they're like the size of a meatball, they come off the trees, they got little pointy little things on them, look kind of like little sea urchins or something, laying on the ground, and me walking down the street and maybe picking one up, maybe throwing one, because they were all over the place. So I can remember that, but the idea that America hasn't been divided, I mean, back then it was strictly divided, right? I mean, there were no white people in my classes. When I came back from Beirut, there still were no black people at Woodside High School. And then when I came back from Indonesia for 11th grade, busing had been put in like 1977 or something. I know it had passed in like probably 1960s, but it took that long for them to make it the law of the land. Shall we listen to the news? So the country's always been hugely divided. It's just that, well, they're going to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize again, and about average ordinary people trying to get the countries to disarm their nuclear weapons. Good luck. I mean, I wish you would. I think it might cause more regular war, and we don't need more regular war. That's conventional warfare. We don't need more of that. I mean, we're already killing off enough people. But as I mentioned in a previous episode, we're actually killing each other at a far lower rate than we used to. I mean, the world is actually getting better for now. Although everybody fears that it'll just blow up, you know, and everybody, well, if it were nukes, then it literally would blow up. And what's going on over in Iraq and Syria right now with the Kurds, I warned everybody. I mean, it's going to happen sooner or later. The Syrian government's going to want back its territory from the Kurds, and the United States is in there. They've already told the United States to get out of Syria, period. So there's a war waiting to happen. It's going to happen unless the United States just backs off, you know, and pulls back into Turkey, where it's not very welcome because it supported the Kurds, and into Jordan, where it's not particularly welcome. It can pull back into Iraq, where it's welcomed by the Shia, the Shia who sooner or later will become our enemy if we keep on talking about war with Iran and talking about screwing around with Iran. I mean, Iran and North Korea, they're the two real fears, right? And Iran much more than North Korea. And I'm sure Iran is looking at North Korea right now and saying to itself, you know what? At least they don't have to worry too much about being invaded because they have nuclear weapons. So they must be, and I would bet you that Iran is secretly continuing its nuclear research. It's just trying to do it without getting caught. I happen to agree with neocons on Iran. Iran is the center of the biggest empire on earth, okay? The Persian Empire was the biggest, and it was the one that lasted forever. I mean, it was just, I mean, compared to like Greece and Rome, it lasted up probably 2 or 3 times as long. So they're showing.
Interest in Libya in 2012.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails, and I ordered Christmas presents from a reservation. Otherwise, I found people said embarrassing things on emails. I didn't want to be one of them.
I mean, and how many angels dance on the head of a pin? I have really nothing to. I mean,
represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out. Quit foreclosing on homes. Quit engaging in these kinds of speculative behaviors.
Now, who's exactly to blame for the housing crisis? I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Home buyers who paid extra fees to avoid documenting their income should have known they were getting in over their heads.
Of course we have to deal with the problem that the banks are still too big to fail. We can never let the American taxpayer and middle-class families ever have to bail out the kind of speculative behavior that we saw. But we also have to worry about some of the other players. AIG, a big insurance company, Lehman Brothers, an investment bank. There's this whole area called shadow banking. That's where the experts tell me the next potential problem could come from. So I'm with both Senator Sanders and Governor O'Malley in putting a lot of... I represented New York, and I represented New York on 9/11. When we were attacked, where were we attacked? We were attacked in downtown Manhattan, where Wall Street is. I did spend a whole lot of time and effort helping them rebuild. That was good for New York, it was good for the economy, and it was a way to rebuke the terrorists who had attacked our country.
9/11 was bad.
I agree with you.
As Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. It's a well-financed industry,
You know, a lot of people don't realize that the industry that gave the most money to Washington over the past few years was not the oil industry, was not pharmaceuticals, it was consumer credit products. Those are the people, the credit card companies have been giving money, and they have influence.
And Mrs. Clinton was one of them, a senator. Yeah.
She has taken money from the groups, and more to the point, she worries about them as a constituency.
So what does this mean, though, to these people, these millions of people out there whom the politicians cavort in front of as favoring the middle class and then are beholden to the powerful interests that undermine the middle class? What does it say about politics today?
You know, this is the scary part about democracy today. We're talking again about the impact of money. The credit industry on this bankruptcy bill has spent tens of millions of dollars lobbying, and as their profits grow, they just throw more into lobbying for how they can get laws that will make it easier and easier and easier to drain money out of the pockets of middle-class families.